Let's then get to a deception on a much bigger issue. I think this is huge, Roshena. This announced review of superannuation. Now, the government, the Labor Party from opposition went to the election promising no changes to super, don't you worry. Now they're talking about this review. Now they're talking about making it harder for people to get their hands on their super to say, have a deposit on their house, which the coalition was talking about. I reckon this is really crucial because they force us with compulsory super to put our money into these funds. They're going to stop us getting any benefit out of those super funds, but they want them and their union mates to have more control over it so they can put it into social housing projects or they can put it into their renewable investments, their ESG dreams. This is dynamite, isn't it, Roshena?
This is extraordinary stuff. We've got to remember what the primary purpose of super is, and that's to provide people with financial security in their retirement. This is your money. And the idea that Jim Chalmers is saying to you he gets to use it for what he calls nation-building projects, which he has said involve things like combating climate change, I think there are plenty of Australians who'd rather say, I want those funds invested in the way that maximises my financial security in my retirement, and that is the purpose of super. But you know, there are other things we could look at doing with super. You mentioned the Coalition's policy to have the ability to use it to buy your first home. And I think that is something that should be on the table because for most Australians, your home is going to be the most significant asset you own. And for those Australians who can't get on the property ladder, it's time that they're not left behind. If they want to use their super as that first step to get on, we need to have a serious discussion about that in this country, not Jim Chalmers' plan to use it for whatever politically correct cause he's got of the day. Yeah,
absolutely. The only thing that rivals super for retirement security is owning your own home, so it ought to be considered. I think that's a good policy. Caroline, the other issue here is taxation, right? They're obviously going to move in here and try and suck more tax out of the super system.
Yeah, I imagine that will happen. And Ross Greenwood was on earlier today talking with Peter Credlin saying that, you know, once you start having this conversation, it's not a big jump to death taxes and all those other sorts of things, which you know, changes in tax rules and particularly around super is something that when governments do it, and particularly when they don't tell the people they're going to do it, ends up being political dynamite. And we've seen various governments make changes that you know they say they weren't going to make, and the electorate does wrap them over the knuckles. I think they want to be really careful here because I don't think that is something, you know, particularly people who are planning their retirement, that they're very careful about these things because people do want financial security, they do want financial independence, and if the government thinks that it can just toddle on in and, you know, take off another corner for themselves, that there is not something that people are going to be happy about, particularly when they're trying to be prudent about their own financial circumstances.